cool cats and kittens. If you've seen Tiger King, you'll get that inside joke. If not, I don't want to ruin it for you. It's a nice binge for after we finish with finals for you to go watch on Netflix. I wanted to start off with a little joke just because I know a lot of people are stressed right now with it being finals, and I just want you to know that we're gonna go through this together and that you got this. Um, my lesson is super quick, it's super short, and it's super important and super interesting. It's a lesson that I know I plan on using when I get into the classroom. I hope you enjoy it and want to use it one day also. And what is this wonderful lesson called? It is called Request in the Presentation, and by yours truly, Tia Jones. We would have done this lesson in the classroom. This would have been the material I would have passed out. You can click on the links and it will send you to a Google Doc for the reading material that I will be referencing throughout this PowerPoint, and for a worksheet that I think would be awesome for you to use for your students. I uploaded one that's very professional and one that's very unprofessional. The unprofessional one is one that I drew because I heard about it on a YouTube talk that is mentioned in my reference, and the one that's professional I think would be one that I would have actually hand out to students. The other one I probably would have just kept for myself for if I would have found it. I thought it was something interesting, so I decided to include it in the document. The reading material is provided from LEAP 2025 that was given to me by my anchor teacher, Ms. Anderson. So it's actually material that they're reading in the classroom. And I picked two documents that I think will be very important for what we're going through. One of the documents talk about, Bush administration with the No Child Left Behind, and the other document talk about Obama with healthcare and being a pandemic. Healthcare and no children being left behind, pretty important right about now. So I figured with us being educators and with it being very relevant to today's society, I thought that those two documents would be something interesting for us to look at. Okay, by now I'm sure you're wondering, what is request? What is this strategy she is so excited about? I will tell you. Request means reciprocal questioning or reciprocal teaching. This strategy can be done in two ways. The teacher can answer the questions that the student asks them, or students work in pairs to ask and answer each of the questions about reading material or about problem solving, which we will get into a little bit later. To use requests. Requests allows for students to gain a greater understanding of the text by being forced to ask questions and look for answers. Meaning, you do not want to use requests if it's a topic that is foreign to the students. Now, if you are presenting new information, make sure it's information that students might have prior knowledge on, or information that they be able to understand quite quickly. Not information that would be complex and something that they would not be able to actually grasp the understanding of quickly. Request works best with small sections of text, meaning you do not want to present requests as a end of book assignment. You want to do it in smaller sections as chapters, or take it even farther. Every chapter has to have a beginning, a middle, and end. So do it for the chapter sections. Break it up. Do a request in smaller sections. The smaller the better. You don't want it too small, of course, where the student's not really gaining information, but you want it small enough that there can be interaction between the students and between the class during discussion, and that there's actually some comprehending going on. It is best to inform students before they begin learning that they will be using the request strategy. Just like all strategies, you have to present it to teach your students about in order for them to use it. Meaning, you do not want to break your student off into pairs the first time you do this strategy. What you want to do is you want to be the teacher that's answering all the questions students have. You want to help students build on the types of questions they have to become more complex. For when they do break off into pairs, they can ask those complex questions that are needed to grasp the full understanding of requests. Request works best with concepts students have already been taught, therefore the strategy is reinforcing information. When you are trying to increase students' reading comprehension skills, it is also good with declarative learning, which is facts. So for all my history and English people, you will use this for your declarative learning. For example, the articles that I posted would be part of declarative learning. It's about the Bush administration and the Obama administration, pure facts that you'll be reading. In English, you have a story. You have to, pick out the main character, the theme. It's declarative facts you can pull from the text. Now, for my math and science people, you can use this strategy as a procedural learning or problem solving strategy where they work on solving two different problems together in an interesting way that we will talk about. Alrighty, so now we know what request is, we know when to use request, but do we actually know the steps of request? Not just yet. Let's get started with the first step of request. Students read silently an assigned passage. They write down questions to ask after reading while they are reading. So this sentence might seem a little complicated, but it's exactly what it is. While the students are reading, you have them to write down their questions. If you wait to have them write down their questions after they finish reading, they might forget what they want to ask. So you encourage students to write down questions as they think of it while reading. If you are doing this as a class, students will ask the teachers complex questions that can be answered and supported by the text. If you have students do this strategy as pairs, then one student will ask a complex question and the second student will answer the question. What do I mean when I say complex question? I mean a question that they have to support with facts and that they have to bring in their own opinion or prior knowledge or prior experience. Not a simple yes or no question. These questions have to be open-ended. Request step 2. So now my students have asked me the question. It's my job as a teacher to answer their question. If they're in pairs, it's student 2's job to answer the question that student 1 just asked. Now, when you are answering the question, the best way and the only way that should be accepted is for everyone to close their book or flip the page over so that way they have to try to remember what they just read. This is encouraging them to actually read in detail to try to comprehend what they're reading while they're reading the text. Now, if you're doing this as a class discussion where the teachers answer the question, this will allow for a lot of different feedback. After you answer the question, you can ask a question and have one of your students answer and, just piggyback off each other off that one little section and cause a lot of class discussion. If you're doing this activity in pairs, even after reading, you should still have a class discussion, okay? Because you want to make sure that the questions that are being answered hit the topics you wanted them to hit, that your students actually learned from this activity, and that they have furthered their knowledge on what you want them to further their knowledge on. So, for instance, on my articles with Bush and Obama administration, I want you to understand, how he won office, the acts that he put in. For Obama, I want you to understand how he won, why his presidency is important. What acts did he put into place? So those are stuff that you want to discuss in a class to make sure those points were highlighted. Alrighty, class. So I have informed you on the steps of a request and the importance of requests. Now it's time for me to give you an example of a request assignment. So if you refer back to the second slide where I posted the given materials and go to the one that has the reading passage, you will be able to kind of further understand this example. Of course, you don't have to read it. I'm going to explain everything step by step. So let's say I'm the teacher, which in this case I am. Hello, class. Read the first 2 paragraphs in your reading assignment. Now, remember, it's important to announce that you're doing a request strategy activity before you start. So the students already know this, and they know that it's time to silently read the first 2 paragraphs. So they read the first 2 paragraphs. Person 1 has written down their question, remember, while they were reading so they wouldn't forget, and they've handed their question off to person 2. Person 2 and person 1 have their pages flipped over so that way they can truthfully and honestly get the best out of this activity and answer the question. So let's look at the question and let's look at their question 2 answer, and let's see why this is important. What actually took place. So question 1 person one, wrote, if Al Gore would not have been associated with the Clinton administration, would he have won presidency in 2000? Question, person two, with their paper flipped over, write an honest opinion. I think Gore would have won because the election between the two candidates were extremely close. Bush won presidency by electoral college votes and not popularity, which made him one of the few presidents to win this way. If you did look back at the reading material, you would see in the first paragraph it stated that it was a shock to the nation that Bush actually won because he did not have the popularity votes. However, he did have the electoral votes. So that is how he became presidency. This question is not a simple yes or no. Person one did not write, did Bush have electoral colleges votes? And person two wrote, yes, no. They had to go in, they had to actually put in their own thought, and then they had to support what they thought with text, with information from the text. And so that is very important. Okay, so we've learned steps 1 and 2. We'll see an example of steps 1 and 2. So now it's time to learn step number 3. Step number 3 is for students to repeat 1 and 2 on the other sections of the text. Once you know students are halfway through the text, come to a stopping point. This stopping point should occur even if students are doing the activity in pairs. This midway stop should allow class discussion for students to make predictions about what will happen next. Statements should be, I think, or next the character will, perhaps he will, stuff like that. This stopping point midway is for you to make sure your students aren't going too off track. You don't want to do assessment at the end when you realize you have lost all your students. You want to come to this halfway point and say, okay, is everyone understanding everything? Do you know why we have No Child Left Behind? Do you know what was the importance of No Child Left Behind? You want to come here naturally. You want to make sure you have the entire class attention. And you'll make sure you hit these main points before you allow your students to move on. Then afterwards, that's when you re-question over the entire text to make sure that students understood the entire lesson or concept or strategy you was trying to teach. So this slide just provides more examples on how you can phrase those keywords in order to make your student understand that this is a nice stopping point where you want to make sure everyone understands. So again, with my No Child Left Behind example, I would just say, what do you think will happen next in education? This will get their thoughts, because even though they live in a society where they're kind of on the post part of No Child Left Behind, the article kind of talks about the immediate reaction. So this would be a nice question to see what they think about the changes. Again, class discussion. Next question. Perhaps this will change the course of education for all students. That's something they can get another class discussion. How do you think this act will affect students and teachers after a while? That's that immediate effect. That's that long-term effect that you can all talk about. Maybe education is better without the No Child Left Behind. I think this question would spark a lot of conversation, because as a teacher, you can have your professional input, and students can have their input from what they heard from, probably their mothers. I can't really say sisters. No Child Left Behind has been for a while, but just what they've heard, from past experiences and from what their family members have said, how education were before No Child Left Behind. Because, we were born in 2000, so the students were teaching, So that should be a very interesting conversation. All right, I told you all this was a super quick, super easy strategy, and we are at the last step, step 4. Step 4 requires you to instruct students to form a purpose-setting question for the end of the reading activity. So on the previous slide, we talked about midpoint activity. Now, after you do midpoint, of course, you got to make it across that finish line and finish the rest of the text that you're dealing with or a problem that you're solving, and make it to that finish line. And at the finish line, you want to have discussion. You want to talk about everything. So here are some example questions you can ask your students, or you can encourage your students to ask each other. What did I learn? Why is the teacher having us read this? Why did I have to know this information? What is the meaning of the text? What is the author's purpose or position on this topic? The reason for this is it will make your students reflect over the material they have just learned in order to further their understanding, or they might come up with more questions. One of the questions might be, what is the author's position on this topic? And one student might say, well, I think the author was for this because step two, reason one, reason two, reason three. And the other one might say, well, I think so and so. And they can encourage in conversation and they can learn more. So you want to make sure you encourage discussion throughout this strategy, especially at the end. Again, to make sure that the student understood the concepts you wanted them to understand, and that they have a full understanding and a full gaining of the knowledge that you want them to gain by the end of this activity. So let's get to the part of the assignment where I promise you we will reach across the curriculum and include our fun math and science subjects. So I think for English and history, it is simple. All you need is the reading material in a graphic organizer that is presented to you in the materials needed section of this PowerPoint, or you can make your own, feel free. But what to do for subjects like math and science, where they really don't have that much reading material in their content, even though reading reach across the curriculum is important, but you still want to do this activity, but you don't have long enough material that you can divide up into sections. So for subjects like science and math, you can do this activity with problems for students to solve. I would recommend only doing it in a partner type environment, then group in order to further discussion, or just keep it between the two people. And I'm about to show you the quick and easy steps in order to do that. It's the same as the steps that you previously learned, so I'm like, oh my goodness, it's a lot more. No, it's quite simple, and I think you might enjoy it. Let's get into the fun and easy steps for math and science. So with math and science, you cannot do this assignment, this activity, as a teacher participating. It has to be student-centered. The student has to do the activity on their own. The teacher works as a coach to the coach, as a facilitator, to help the students process and gain all the information they need in order to succeed in the worksheet. What did I mean when I say a coach to the coach? I will get there, just hang on tight. So the first step to this will be to divide the class into pairs. You have to make sure everyone is paired up. Like I said, the teacher can't, be the main person, like for the English and history examples, okay? So you'll give out one student worksheet A and the second student worksheet B, meaning you have to have two completely different worksheets. This will be very important, and this is the main purpose of this assignment. Reason being, worksheet A have a question at the top for that student to solve. I'm going to just simply call this student Student A. Worksheet B has a question for student B to solve at the top. I'm going to call this student Student B. Now, student B answers on the bottom of student A's worksheet, and then vice versa. Student A's answers are at the bottom of student B's. So because the answer key to their worksheet is at the bottom, you want to encourage them to fold the paper over. Okay, that only one student can work on the project, on the assignment, the problem one at a time. So while student A is working on worksheet A, student B is saying, okay, don't forget to multiply. I think you probably misadded here. And just coaching them through, trying to help them solve the problem. Student B has the answer key on his or her paper in order to make sure that student A is on the right track of succeeding. If they come to a problem and they need assistance, student B, not student A, student B will raise his or her hand, and the teacher will come and talk to student B and help student B find out where they made the mistake, where they need to improve. For example, teacher could be like, I think you probably misadded there. That's what they would tell student B. Student B would then have to look at the mistake and be like, oh, okay, and relate that back to student A. They coach each other. It's a back and forth problem, because once they finish with students A worksheet, then it's students B turn to be the person that's filling out the worksheet and student A turn to coach them through how to solve the problem. All right, I'm going to show you an example on the next slide. This image was found on YouTube. The link to the YouTube page that I found this on is listed on the last slide, my resources slide. I did not create this picture at all, this image. Alrighty, so this image is an image of a chemistry assignment where the students have to balance equations. As you see, the answer key to the students A's questions on student B and vice versa. So the students again will have this page folded in half and will be coaching each other through the process. If they come to a roadblock, it's the students A job to ask the teacher if student B is working, and if student A is working, it's student B job to ask the teacher to coach them through. One problem that I had a lot with balancing equations that I think would be helpful for students to help other students solve would be if you find out, for instance, on the first one for the page to the left, the answer is 1, 2, 2, 1. I would be that student that will get the answer wrong, but I had 2, 4, 4, 2. And so that would be my partner's job to be like, okay, Tia, what do you see in common between these numbers? I'll be like, oh, they're all divisible by 2. So I'll be like, the part be like, yeah, that's right. Coaching me through, motivating me through, helping me solve it, not telling me, oh, well, you're right, but you're not right. The answer is 1, 2, 2, and 1. You just forgot to divide. No, you ask, what do you think you need to do? Just like you would with the reading assignments. You want to ask those questions. It's not yes and no, but will make the student think. Well, you want to encourage your students to ask those questions that will make each other think. So this is an example that a math and science teacher can use this activity in their classroom. So if we would have been in the classroom, I would have handed everybody out this handy dandy worksheet that I found online. I actually had already made copies. It's very disappointing I couldn't send it to everyone, but I'm glad I'm able to still show you all. These are all the steps that I explained. They stretch the steps out a little more. They have it in 6 steps. I kind of condensed it down to 3 steps because to me a lot of stuff was repetition. But you will see that this is the steps in order to make sure you have this. You can take a picture, a screenshot. You can actually Google this worksheet. Just type in request steps PDF and it will pop up. And this is very helpful. It helped me along with our textbook on able to present this PowerPoint to you all. And of course, I have to give credit to the wonderful resources that helped me put together this PowerPoint along with the worksheet that I presented on the last slide. I watched these YouTube videos to kind of help me further my understanding on request and able to bring it to you on this evening. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, please text or email me. Most of you all have my phone number or email, so please feel free to reach out. I would love to answer any questions you might have. And just good luck on finals week. I know you got this. And I look forward to seeing you in the fall. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.